Hey, Sven here. As of today, OpenAI's new image generator is also available in the API. And that's especially cool, because now I can finally use this image generator, which is currently even better than Flux 1.1, which I've been using all this time in my make automations. There's still a small drawback. In the make module from OpenAI, it's not included yet. That means I actually have to use the regular API calls. And I'll show you how that works here in this video. This image you see here, the famous, cute little sea otter, is the example prompt that OpenAI uses. It's already been created using the automation. Cool stuff, check it out, especially all the way to the end, because I'll also show you how you can use the editing function. I've been working with process optimization and quality for over 33 years. Not just in a business context, but in all areas of life. And a lot of what I can do today, I learned through experience and trial and error, so I know what really works. In my videos, I want to show you how you can use intelligent process automation profitably for yourself and your business. If you need support with that or don't know where to start, just book a call. You'll find the link for that right below this video. So, let's get started. When I read this morning that the new model is now available in the API, of course I went straight to Make-In. Checked it out. As usual, I first opened the OpenAI module here and checked if there was anything like Model GPT, Image 1 or something like that, but there isn't. So I thought, well, maybe it's in Generate Image. I'll just quickly add it here so I can open it. And if you look in here, you can still only select DALL-E and DALL-E 2 and 3. So it wasn't in here either. And yeah, that was, of course, the first disappointment. Then I check if maybe it was an irregular check completion. Even when you open check completion here, you have all the models in here, as well as everything related to text generation, multimodal, and so on. But this model still isn't available here either. So I thought, well, then, I'll just use the real API, so to speak, by calling the HTTP module. And to do that, you use the regular make a request module, which we use in many different cases whenever there's an API from any system. And how I need to use it, I looked up in the API documentation. You can find the documentation here on the platform. And basically, for us, there are two main API calls, create image and create image edit. The create image variation function actually doesn't exist for the new model for GPT-Image 1. This function isn't available. But we don't need it anyway, because a variation is nothing more than an edit, so they probably just left it out for that reason. To use this API, I need this API endpoint, which is this generation's endpoint. Here, you can see how it's described. That means, first of all, it's necessary to include the API key in the header and then specify in the payload in this JSON document which parameters we want to use. You can see here first the parameter GPT-Image 1, which is the new model and the prompt. So here, for example, this BBC Otter and then two others, the number and the size. And there are a few other parameters here as well. So, for example, you can actually set transparency here as well. You can select the model here. Moderation simply means that safe content is generated. Output compression refers to what kind of compression, meaning quality reduction, you get when you use JPEG or BP. For output format, you specify the data type. So, for example, I would choose PNG. And then, for quality, we'll just leave it set to auto. Because it says here, we'll automatically select the best quality for a given model. That means, basically, I don't need to specify any of this at all. Response form, this is really important, and it's also the most complicated part here. GPT-Image 1 always responds with a base 64 encoded image. That means not with a URL where you can just download the image right away, but rather with a code like this. As for the size, there are 3 different options: square, and then 1536 pixels either in landscape or portrait orientation. And the style parameter doesn't apply to GPT-1. To use this API call now, I need to make a request module from HTTP. And yes, the endpoint goes up here, then the method is post. Here, you enter the OpenAI key, meaning the API key that I set in a variable here. And then here we have raw JSON application /JSON. And then in the request content, we put in this JSON document. That means it's the model GPT-Image 1. We have the prompt, which I also defined earlier in a variable. We want an image. The output format should be PNG, and the size should be square 1024. It's also important that you set parse response to yes, because you'll get a JSON document in which this base 64 is included, and that's what we actually want to process further as the main element. Then I'll show you the prompt. I made a tiger cub sitting on the tip of a finger and looking directly into the camera. And later, when we edit the image, we'll put a hat and sunglasses on the tiger. Let's see if that works. Yeah, and once this API call is made, you'll get that base 64 string in. Now I want to use it in some way. And here I've shown you 2 methods, or actually, it's 3 methods, of how I can handle it. First, I'm using what's called temp storage from Zero Code Kit. That means I can upload this image to a Zero Code Kit server, get a URL back, and then use that URL as needed. And to upload this image there, I have to convert this base 64 into a binary format. And for that I need this function with the base 64 parameter, so the function knows what the source actually is. Then I give the file a name, and it gets uploaded accordingly, and the response is a URL. And this URL, in turn, can be used, for example, to write the image into an editable, allowing me to further process the image. It's important to note that this image is only available on the server for about an hour or so. That means I have to process it further within that time. And an alternative option is to upload this base 64 file to my Google Drive. That means I simply created a folder on Google Drive, gave the file a name here as well, and used the same function again. So I convert this base 64 string into a binary format, and then it's available on Google Drive. I duplicated the whole process and did the same thing here at the end, specifically for editing the image. And editing the image works differently. For that, I'll go back to the documentation. This is the next endpoint that we see listed below. And as you can see, create image edit is the function here. And here in this description, you can see that we need 2 things. Specifically, we need this base 64 decoded. So again in binary format. And here it says if, which means it's not a body, but now we need this form. I'm not exactly sure what it's called. Let's take a look at that in a moment. And there I can specify the image I want to upload. As you can see here, I can also specify multiple images. And then send the prompt back through the form as well. So not as a JSON document, but in this way. Let's take a look at how that works. So up here, I have the URL, and again, it's a post method that stays the same. And here for the body type, instead of what we had before, I now need to select multipart form data. Then, in these fields, I can enter these parameters. The first one is text, and we also need the model. So, what I would normally do in a JSON document with something like text equals GPT-Image 1, and quotes, I'm now doing here, in these fields. The second one is then the file type. The key is image. And now, I'm doing the same function again. That means I convert this base 64 string into a binary format and pass it here through this parameter with any name I choose. And the third parameter is then the prompt, where I said I want to put a hat and sunglasses on the tiger. Here, to it comes again. Yes. Response. Yes, and the Rest ultimately stays the same. That means the images generated and then saved again in the corresponding directories. Okay, so that's the explanation. Now we'll let it run and see what comes out of it. The call takes about 15 seconds. That's why I'm taking a short break. The scenario has now run through, and that thing about 15 seconds was, of course, nonsense, because it actually takes much longer. The 15 seconds are still stuck in my head because of Flex, since I wait 15 seconds there. But here it doesn't really matter if it takes a bit longer. The cool thing about it is, I make this API call, and the scenario waits until the result comes back. That means I don't have to work with a pause, a webhook, or anything like that. I just call the thing, and then I get the corresponding result. If we look at the result here now, we can see data down here. And within data, there's another data, and there you'll find a number 1, because there could also be multiple images. And now we see this base 64 JSON string here, right? And that's exactly what we have here as a result. And we then convert it into this binary format. And when we upload it here, we get a URL. This URL, in turn, I can now process further. And that's exactly what I did in Airtable. And I also uploaded the image to Google Drive. And here, in the end, we have exactly the same thing again. So here too, data 1, base 64, JSON, and then the upload. So let's take a look at the result. Let's go to Airtable first. I also entered the prompt right here as well. So let's take a look at the tiger. Yeah, okay. It actually does look cute. And here's the modified image. Now, really. Yeah, it's a bit different. Above all, it's not square anymore, which is very interesting. Now, it's in portrait format. That's probably because I didn't specify the format, and the default is actually portrait. Okay, so I should have specified the format in these form fields as well. So again, 1024. But yeah, well, that's something we've learned now. Yeah, and now it actually has a hat and sunglasses on. And I have to say, it really does look a little bit different. So you can definitely see here how the image has been modified a bit. But it worked. That's cool. And it should also be saved in Google Drive now. There's still the outer. Let's close that. Let's refresh. Yeah, and here the tiger is saved. And the modified one too. What I also did, I actually tried that out right away earlier. Maybe you know my automation that I use to create these images where I publish quotes like this with photos that are generated dynamically. And lately, I've been pretty annoyed because Ideogram, which I used for this up until now originally, worked quite well when it came to generating text like this. But recently, it's really been producing a lot of junk. That means it's actually gotten worse than it was before. So I immediately tried it out with this system here, with this model 1. Sorry, with this GPT-Image 1 model. And obviously, it works really well, yeah. So here I have the sticker on the streetlight, and the text is error-free. The letters are a little bit, well, not that great, but basically, it works. That means I'm going to switch this scenario over to the new module right away as well. As soon as it's available in the Make module 2, I'll update it there accordingly and maybe even make another video about it. I assume it won't be particularly complicated, but, well, let's take a look. Have fun with it, and maybe now you can switch all your image generations over to this new module too. I think it's really cool that it's finally available. See you next time. Bye.